Don't look back, we're here to stay. A life we knew would come one day. And this is it, the borderline to where the future leaves us behind. The fire will burn and never die, looking through the eyes of a brand new life. And so just find me, just find me. Sparks will fly if we scream no. This is not how we're gonna go. We are the ones who will never let go. Just watch us roll till no one knows. We'll never grow.
Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome. We are back. New time, same content.
6 months later.
6 months later, I can't remember
Whatever it was.
the last time that we did a show. This is Your Brand, Your Business, where we talk about the business side of content creation. My name is Ernest Jones. I am a CPA, certified professional accountant, who assists broadcasters and game developers with their tax needs. I am not tired at all because infamously, content creators are very good about being organized, and everyone's already filed their taxes, so there's nothing to worry about tomorrow.
And there's no deadline tomorrow, yeah.
There's no deadline at all. And Galen, why don't you introduce yourself to the fine people at our new time slot?
I'm Galen Herbst Cortina. You can probably hear my daughter crying in the background. I am a CFP, a financial planner, CFP professional, pardon me, a certified. And I work as well with broadcasters, new media, content creators, whatever the hell you guys want to be calling yourselves nowadays, to help them make smart money decisions. And the reason, I'm going to mute in a sec, but the reason we have a crying baby is because this was her at lunch. And as you can see, that does require some subsequent bathing.
I will say it doesn't sound like crying as much as just rambunctious enjoyment of lentils. Is that what I call
it? That was the eating. Now she is crying because she was forced to take a bath so that she didn't get every single surface that she came even near covered in lentils. So
well done.
Anyways, today we were planning on talking, as the title said, sort of the various jobs that you have as a broadcaster. And these are things that we've touched on before in previous shows, but we wanted to make sure we sort of went through the full list, in part to talk or to show how much work it is to be a content creator and why it makes sense to put a lot of time and effort into setting yourself up to do the jobs that you need to be doing, the jobs that are the ones that only you can be doing, and perhaps finding ways to have other people help you with the jobs that you don't need to be the one doing. So where do you want to start on this list? Because it's quite the list.
Yeah, so this is kind of an extension of a stream scene show. The topic suggestion came from the infamous Loco. It was requested that we kind of ditto this, and we're going to kind of speak to it from our perspective as professionals who work with creators, so we can kind of identify these things. And like Galen said, we've talked about a lot of these things either in deep dives or in passing, and we kind of just wanted to go bullet by bullet, kind of talk about all of those things from that perspective. And so the first one, and the most important, I would say, of them all, is just kind of the talent role that a broadcaster or new media professional has to kind of do. So, Galen, we want to talk about that. Is very straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, the talent role is the one that you think about when you think about what a streamer is, the first thing that comes to mind. Or if you're explaining it to your grandparents, what is it that you do as a streamer? It's that piece. It's the one, just like you'd call an actor talent, right? It's, oh my goodness, it's the person who is actually streaming, actually live. Their face or gameplay or some combination thereof is live on camera.
She's cheering you on.
Are you murdering the baby? She's been forced to wear pants. That is tough. I haven't been forced to wear pants in 8 months.
Yeah, quarantine life. Like, why? So quick aside, because we're back now. Let's start with our first tangent back. Why did we ever wear jeans? Honestly, what was the point of that?
It gets gusty sometimes in the winter here.
I mean, you can wear pants that aren't jeans.
Oh, that's true. I usually do.
Yeah.
The pockets for when I'm outside is primarily the reason. The pockets and if I'm on a hike, the invulnerability to random branches that might stab me.
I'll make this tangent very quick. Galen, you're a dad now. You can bring back cargo pants. You can make it happen. But specifically, when we're talking about getting back on track, the talent piece, I would say kind of the StreamerSquare audience is kind of more up than your average kind of viewer on Twitch. And so I think I can kind of make an analogy. We've all heard, or when a viewer or a dono comes in, and it's, man, why are you complaining? It's so great. You just get to, play video games is like your life. Isn't that great? And in that moment, it's much like the Simpsons reference when you can see the moment Milhouse's heart breaks. You can see in a broadcaster when that gets brought up that there's this moment when they're deciding whether or not they want to communicate all of the actual work that goes into being a broadcaster.
All you do is press start streaming in OBS or XSplit, right? And then that's the whole job until you stop.
Exactly. That's all you have to do. There's no other requirement, and it's just the money just prints itself. Now,
so that's one part of being the talent, but then there is the other piece of being talent, which is, planning your content. If you're a gaming streamer, what gaming releases are coming up? If you're someone who does things like D&D, well, that means usually organizing several other super well organized individuals, getting them available at the same time, agreeing on a campaign, all that kind of stuff. And, if you're doing a specific thing that's like a community incentive from something you did in the past, either for charity or just for your own fundraising, you have to also have all of that in place. So you're, as talent, you're doing the streaming, you're doing all the live, and then you're actually, having to be the planner.
And so I'm going to go a little off the rails off our show notes here, Galen, because I just had this idea. Like, there's the idea that you're the talent, and what you're actually on camera, you're doing your stream, you're performing, or you're a cosplayer, you're doing your shoots, you're pushing your content, what have you. But then you're actually wearing a different one that wasn't in our show notes, is the production producer, right? So obviously Morag's running the production here, right?
We spent 10 minutes prior to this call telling Morag how happy we are that he's here doing this and exists, because we're so bad at the production side of it. So yes, that's also a piece of it for sure.
Right. So you're like lining up your stream, you're figuring out, where you're placing cam for a certain game. And these are maybe considerations that you make on a game by game basis, or whatever your content is, but there are considerations in terms of your overlays and how your notifications work, how you're going to interact. There's a lot that goes into it that I think maybe take for granted is too strong a term, but there are considerations there, and that is a role you're fulfilling.
Yeah, I would say anyone who's, I think, watched streams for more than just one or two occasions knows that there's work that goes into it, because you see every once in a while when something breaks, how much effort it can take to get it fixed.
There was a Windows update and your capture card died, and then all of your audio settings got nuked.
Yeah, exactly. Or like anytime you see a picture of a battle station for a streamer, it's like 6 monitors, lights in 5 different directions.
All right, listen,
mixer and
you can't do that. This is a meme show. You've got to give the XQC joke. 7 monitors, 6 consoles. You gotta.
And then your unmade bed in the background of your unadorned room.
Yep. Well, perfect transition. Segues. We're good at these now. So unmade bed. Next topic, personal assistant, Galen. So you kind of have talked a lot about this with clients I know, where the demands of just all the roles we're talking end up being quite a bit. And you recommended when you have kind of hit that inflection point, that turning point where your time is better spent either relaxing or on more profit centers, whether it's streaming or marketing, we'll get into that later, is outsourcing some of that in what would be called a traditional kind of personal assistant role.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you say the job of a streamer's personal assistant in the sense that it's to themselves, right? But it's definitely, God, what would you call that? Because it's them doing it for themselves. So personal assistant seems weird, but it's like you're saying, it's all the follow-up things, like, like you were saying, if you do an activation, sending the stats to the developer, maintaining the relationships with the developer in between activations. It's things like, even just making sure you get enough sleep so that you can keep to a schedule, assuming that you've set one up. It's making sure that you've actually taken the time to spend a while in your community, because of course you don't just get to stream, you also generally have to be involved in Discord or on Twitter and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of that logistical stuff, not to mention, of course, all the things that are just involved with being a human that you have to maintain. If someone's getting a look into your life in at least some form, like Ernest mentioned, the unmade bed or the pile of laundry or the setting of the scene is something that you also have to do, which if you were, again, someone not doing it from your bedroom or living room, there would probably be a team involved with that. So that's something that you're having to actually, though, do yourself. So your talent, you're a personal assistant to the talent, even though you're the talent, right?
Well, and the reason we wanted to call this out specifically is I can give you some occurrences where I have a client as an example. We've talked about this before on the show, where you set up a mailing address for public facing, so you maintain a certain level of anonymity and you don't end up doxing yourself. And I have the client, I'm like, hey, when was the last time you checked that mailbox? I don't know. It's been probably like 6 months.
Sick IRS notices in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Mail and
and so, and oftentimes when Galen and I have a mutual client, we'll be on a call and I'll be like, hey, have you done this yet? When was the last time you did that? When was the last time you scheduled something? Or how are you managing your deliverables? How do you do all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so,
or even just when was the last time you took a peek at your revenue dashboard and not just saw whether or not you had cash in the bank, or did some sort of outreach? Because a lot of streamers aren't yet at the point where they have people who can take over this kind of role, where it's more administrative or it's more like a manager / agent role, which is something else that of course we haven't even touched on yet, right? But
and the reason kind of we want to talk about this, and I think I said this at the top, if not, I'm going to repeat myself, is this is a little bit of kind of the scared straight episode, in that everyone gets to see the quote unquote, if you want to call that the glamour of stream. Like, you get to do this, and I think every creator would 100% agree that they're very fortunate to be in the position and all of that stuff. But there's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes. I used to use the reference, and I think I used to lowball it. For every hour on stream, you probably have 4 hours of other work related to it that happens off. And you can think about, as you were talking, I was thinking about this. I know the numbers have gone up because of COVID and quarantine, but would you say that kind of the average stream hour per week is about 48 hours for like a broadcaster? Like
full time is live? Yeah. I've, for the people that I've seen be really successful, so a part of what I've seen from people who are successful is they actually do give themselves days off. Mm-hmm. Both days off, like full days off, like I am not doing anything stream related, and then also a day off of like I'm not streaming, but I'm getting administrative stuff done or logistical work done. So yes, I would agree with you, but it tends to be, they tend to work nursing shifts almost, is what I've seen. If there's someone who's moved to sort of that level of success, where it's 4 12s as opposed to 5 8s or something like that. And I know those end up being, one's 48, one's 40. I know that, but I'm just saying, like, I've actually seen it be more like a nursing schedule where it's longer shifts for fewer days, so that they have the other days to recuperate, to do other things.
Right. And so let's say, just as a kind of an example here, there's 144 hours in a week, I believe.
Isn't it 172?
172. Sorry.
12 times 12, yeah.
I think maybe I was doing 5. There's some I was doing that. 172. Punch it into your financial calculator.
Yeah, that's really what I'm doing.
But anyway, so let's say that's right. Let's even do a low estimate. It's 40 hours a week that you're live. If my estimate is right, that you spend roughly 4 hours off, do another 168.
There's your 4 hours. You got it back.
Okay. You do 40 hours streaming. That's 160 hours a week of admin time or other functions. Right. So
right now we've just added up to more than 24 hours in a day.
Exactly. So moving on to the next kind of, so we talk
about, sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to talk about the talent, production assistant, personal assistant. Next up, we had on our list in the show notes was marketer. Mm-hmm. Do you want to take the lead on this one? You okay with that?
Sure. So inherently, a big part of successful streaming is marketing your stream. There are millions of ways you can do that, ranging from the scummy and not successful, like retweet bot, follow for follow, whatever kind of thing.
Do those work, Galen?
No.
Okay, good. Just
It works for the person running the bot, not people with the bot.
And to your point, though, Galen, not saying it's insidious in nature, but every social post, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, Friendster, Twitter, Snapchat, Only Farmers, whatever, that is a marketing thing. So even if it takes 30 seconds, it's a marketing push.
Yep. So there's that piece of it. There's some of the stuff that we talked about in terms of like, so there's the piece of what are you doing with other broadcasters? What are you doing for discovery? Like, social media, that kind of stuff, just actively streaming. Then there's a piece around your brand, the identity of your stream, the colors that you use, the name that you use, your emotes, your style.
Overlays.
Well, right, overlays too, but also just your style, right? There's everything between the most wholesome, grandma knitting to the least wholesome person you can imagine that is allowed via Twitch TOS, right? All on the same platform. So part of your marketing is picking that.
Galen, I have a question that just occurred to me.
No.
And I desperately want to know the answer to this. What would you call your community?
There's
a nickname?
I have no clue at all. Because I don't have one, nor do I intend to ever have one.
I would definitely call us the Abacuses.
The Abacuses? Okay, that's good. That's good.
The Abaci?
Abaci? That sounds like Alpha Chi.
Is it like
sorority, right?
Is it like sheep? Is the plural of abacus abacus?
I don't know.
That's a very good question. Anyway, moving on.
Great. Yeah. Really important to cover.
It is. See, listen, we have to have those things to keep people engaged.
So we were talking marketing. We talked about the pieces that go into it. We also didn't touch on the old times when part of your marketing could be going to, in-person events, meeting people. But that's sort of all of those activities are, when you think of large companies, they have entire teams working on marketing, working on branding, working on managing their social media. And, some of the largest streamers have some element of that too, for sure. But if you are a solo streamer, like 99.999% of streamers are, then this is also an area that you are the person doing a lot of that work, or at least having to be involved in a lot of that work.
And I'm pretty sure somewhere in the YouTubes, there's we did a show where we did a deep dive on events and how you plan and how you. I think we've done that show multiple times. And one thing, is having kind of a plan for how, are you going to talk to developers? Who are you going to talk to? Do you set aside a day at the con where you just basically go booth to booth, introduce yourself, have your stat sheet? What's your follow-up plan? All of that is marketing.
Well, and even just having a plan.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even just having a plan too for, what if you've got something like that set up and then while you're at a conference, something of yours goes viral? Like, do you have a at least start of a response plan to that kind of a thing, or are you flying by the seat of your pants, right? Because virality is not something that most people plan, right? Like you hope for, potentially, assuming it's in the positive direction. Dude with his cranberry juice and his Fleetwood Mac, I'm sure loved that happened. But also, part of marketing is the preparation for, hey, what if this really succeeds? Then how do we leverage that to do further marketing? Are we pinning a tweet? Are we including that in our pitch deck? Are we going on other shows where we might be invited on as a guest because we're the meme of the day? Are we encouraging other people to transform what happened into other forms that then refer back to it, right?
Shouts, by the way, you dropped something. Shouts to the TikTok marketing team, because they had an actual TV ad with that viral, and
I watched during the NBA playoffs less than a week later.
Yeah, that's
with
quick turnaround. And they cleared Fleetwood Mac.
I know.
So, listen, I believe it's one of them. I think it's Lindsey Buckingham has gone through multiple divorces, so he may be willing to sell the whole catalog very quickly.
Fair enough.
One thing I wanted to talk about, and this may fall under production assistant, producer, but I think it's also marketing. I know at one point, and I'm not sure if he still does it, Hunter would have a kind of a calendar that mapped all the major releases and when he would be playing them.
Mhm.
and kind of had that available, like, all right, community, here is XYZ happening. I will be streaming them on these days.
Yep.
And like, and I think we could kind of mince words. Some of that's production, some of that's producing, but the actual pushing of the schedule and making the decision to inform people when that's happening is a marketing decision.
Well, if we're going to use Hunter as an example too, on the marketing side, he also had like giveaways planned that were in theme with the event, or like, I think when he streamed, like something like Fallout, he had a related piece of artwork that he was going to be randomly raffling off and stuff like that. Like he goes way over the, yeah, he's on a break from streaming right now so that he can prep the next crazy marketing push that they're doing. But that is a role that, if you're looking to be successful, can help you succeed, right? Like it is possible to not focus on any of this and succeed, but it helps you succeed, right? Like it's possible to do it without this. It's possible to not plan this out at all and just have things work, but that is unlikely to work.
That's doing a disservice to kind of, if your intent is to be full-time and do this as a career, you're doing a disservice to your community. You're doing a disservice to everything. You're not, treating yourself with respect.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So you got to be talent. You've got to be the marketer. You've got to be the production assistant, and do, the whole personal assistant thing. You got to be a functioning human, at least at some level, so that you are engaging, energetic, not falling asleep, not randomly cursing people out unduly because you're in a bad.
I think that point's debatable. I'm just taking that off my back end. That's what I'm doing.
Fair enough. Yeah, what's the meme? Like, there's no pieces for all of these unless, and removing sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorites.
I'm here, Galen. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I got memes, so.
I have fewer now that I've been on social media a little bit less and have been, distracted with the
I saw the pun you made too. You said virality is fleeting in so many words. And I mean,
we're not experiencing that right now, are we? God.
All right. So we were at 3 tangents. We're doing good. Our tangent. Did you just spill?
No, I'm sad that virality is not fleeting.
Well, it kind of is if you think.
When was the last time you went to a bar?
I mean, if you follow my Twitter, I've become like a mixologist.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you should all check it out because he makes some really good looking drinks, and I really wish that I could go to Vegas and get some. But
all right, next role, legal. Our third host, if this is the first time you've been able to tune in live, is Noah Downs, my lawyer friend. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him on today, kind of to do this, but we've done deep dives on the legal piece before. I would say, from the outside looking in, the number one thing that creators do not do a good job, especially in the beginning, is reviewing their contracts. And what I mean by that is, do I have to read all of this? Yes. Do you need to be attentive? And if you are uncertain about a clause or a statement or a word, and follow up and determine what that means from someone that is different than the person giving you the contract? Yes. You can, everything is negotiable in terms of a contract. If you don't like something, you can ask for it to be changed.
They could say no, but you can always ask.
Yeah, exactly. They could say no. I mean, there are, I think, and I could be misremembering, I would highly recommend everyone review those old shows, but I think the likeness clause is one thing that catches a lot where, who retains the rights to this? Do they have the right to use your likeness in perpetuity? That we've talked about as the money people, the payout terms, is it net 15, net 30, net 45? When does the clock start?
So painful sometimes where it's like, yeah, you finish the job and then you don't get paid for 2 months and you're sitting there like, yeah, but my bills are due this month. So anyways.
I got a few creators that have kited me for about 4 months. So if they're listening, no.
I appreciate that you use kited because that brings me back to
tangent number 4. That's a boomer term. So
come on. Do people still say that, right?
No, that's a boomer term because it doesn't hold. Okay, so
doesn't not playing MMOs? The kids?
When was the last time you flew a kite? What are you, Mary Poppins in here?
Yeah, but it's still a term in gaming.
By the way, boomer reference on boomer reference. Number 2, wasn't kiting effectively a term used when you would send the check right? That's where I was familiar with, and you'd wait for it to be cached. Well, flash poll.
Be an old gaming term now. Really? Come on.
Well,
Come on. No, hold on.
I think it is an old gaming term, but I was using it in the like slow pay term. You look it up.
Okay.
So the other thing is in regards to contracts. If you are hiring an artist, whether it be for emotes or overlays or just general branding, I as a non-attorney, not giving legal advice, strongly recommend you get a contract for that, specifically because, as we've talked about on the show, there are certain rules when it comes to art, and if you don't have that dictated properly in the terms of you working with the artist, they technically own the rights to that piece of art. And so there could be some issues with that, and I can't go into professionally anymore with that. But specifically, you should have a contract.
Well, and not only that, but so the contract piece is super important because it's going to be something that's ongoing, right? Both contracts that you sign could have ongoing repercussions for your day-to-day operations, like the contract that you sign with Twitch, for instance, if you're on this platform when you become an affiliate or a partner. But then also you will, assuming you continue to succeed, grow, that kind of thing, will continue to have contracts come across your desk that could be pretty lucrative. So contract reviews are really important. But another piece that I feel like people really miss, and this is, I think, part of what you were alluding to on any professional side, but definitely on the legal side, is a risk review. Are you doing things that are likely to get you DMCA'd? Are you doing things that are likely to get, Disney's lawyers mad at you because you're using their characters in artwork and emotes and stuff like that? Like, I think that's one piece that a lot of content creators, even if they know to have someone talk with them about contracts, they don't know to have someone do a risk review on the legal side of what kind of dumb things am I doing? Because if you're, I think wasn't this literally an issue? Like if your handle is something like I am Batman, right? Wasn't that a whole thing?
I know. I saw something. So on that vein, I saw something, and it was pretty clickbaity. But I saw someone who I believe is a glamour model, and they had their name, handle was some allusion to like Pokemon.
Oh,
and they said like you got to change your name. And if you've done the digging and if you follow kind of the industry, you've seen these cases on the fringes where creators have had to change their name because it was deemed infringing. And, there's this one company that is notoriously not litigious at all. You may have heard of them. They're called Disney, but they have stuck their nose out there, a small indie company.
Sorry, I play Hearthstone, so now all I think about is when I hear small indie company is spaghetti code. But go on.
Listen, the bad code in World of Warcraft is notorious in that it will crash servers. But
then they're able to log into Hearthstone for 2 days because the friggin' Shadowlands pre-patched bullshit.
Oh wow! If you're thinking about, if you're just starting too, if you're talking about your initial handle and all of that, you definitely don't want to. I would say at this point, if you're new, nothing that is kind of a play on words or a portmanteau on a known gaming IP. So nothing alluding to like Pokemon or things like that, because I've heard stories where a creator kind of blows up and does very well, and their ability to copyright their name or their branding becomes a problem.
Right.
And it's not worth for them to pay the legal fees to kind of hash it out.
You know who I feel bad for on that note that wasn't entirely around that, but definitely ended up getting bitten in the ass by it? Good old Trump SC, who goes by Trump, which is really rough nowadays. And then SC, he used to stream StarCraft, but now he streams Hearthstone. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing, right? I don't think we would necessarily, unless, games come and go. Like look at the kind of the huge 1% very successful broadcasters, whether it was Moon_OW or XQCOW or Trying to think of any other ones that had it in the tag.
Well, and Overwatch is still somewhat successful, but imagine
but they don't.
Imagine 2.5 years ago you made your name like Champ PUBG, and it's like, well, it like it still exists. It's still a game that's fine, but compared to its peak is not where it used to be.
And then you run into the issue where, we can't speak to it, but is there some legal concern where like you're associating your branding with their IP? And what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, we've gone deeper in this than I think is warranted given the time that we're trying to spend. But to kind of go over it, you are, as a streamer talent, you're your own personal assistant, you're your own production assistant, you're a marketer. You have to do legal review, so you have to have some level of that. You have to do, as a part of that sort of legal review that we talk about, like business development. Business development is tied in between sort of marketing and legal, I'd say. You also have to look at accounting and tax, right? If you're earning income from streaming, then you have some consideration, at least, that you have to do around the tax side of things. It's a question of how much you're earning and how much you're spending. And we've talked ad nauseum about tax. Ernest is probably regretting his CPA at this moment, given that there's a tax deadline.
All you clipping Claras out there, fire it up, okay? Because I will say this with 110% authority. The biggest time waste I have seen with creators is this. They do not keep up with their bookkeeping and track their business expenses. And then it comes to tax time and they burn tens, if not low 100 hours recreating the year, because they get to March of 2020 and they say, oh shit, what did I spend? What was this Amazon purchase in January for?
Right.
Wait, what? Why do I have a receipt from California? I live in Wisconsin for a con. Oh, that was that con. Oh, I've got to pull my hotel. I've got to pull my travel. I've got to document all of these things.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a successful streamer, time doing this is time away from streaming, is time away from working with developers, is time away from resting and relaxing so that you're a functional human for when you do go on stream, right?
When you could have spent in January 1 or 2 hours in keeping it up. And I make the Hitch joke with a lot of clients. So this is probably a boomer reference as well. We'll keep them going. We should
well, when did that movie come out? It wasn't that. Oh God, never mind.
Yeah, we're exceptionally old, Galen. That's okay.
Jesus, what year did it come out?
2003, I'm going to say.
5. So you were closer than I would have been.
So there's a joke in that movie where he's like, look, you just need to, her to come 10 and you'll go 90. Right. And so it's like, I will do 90% of it, but I just need you to give me a little bit here and there so I can put together something. And that 10%, in my opinion, is low effort and it will save you time on the back end. Mm-hmm. There's this business kind of philosophy kind of problem that you run into. And Gail, I think this is kind of a good kind of tangent for all of these things. As a business owner, as a brand, you're going to be making decisions. And these decisions are going to be kind of, one way to frame them is, I can solve this problem now, and it's going to cost me time now. Or I can put it on the back burner, and it's likely to cost me time later, more time later, but I don't have to deal with it now. Mm-hmm. And as a business owner, as a brand, you can't do everything right now all the time. And you can't push everything to the back burner all the time. So there's no right decision at any given point, but you have to have those things in balance to make sure you're being effective and efficient. And so to my kind of rant here, to put a button on it, I would say, what I've tried to say is, look, if you're not going to do it monthly, I get it. Do it once a quarter. It's not going to take you that much time. And on this specifically, we've said this ad nauseum. It's like one of the 10 holy commandments of your brand, your business is get a separate bank account. It doesn't have to be a business bank account. Just get a separate checking account. And if it's, 100% or 75% or more related to your stream or your branding, whether it's paying an artist or whatever, run it through that account.
And do spend the $100 a month it'll probably cost you to get someone to do some basic bookkeeping for you.
Yeah, if you're full time,
If someone doing basic bookkeeping for you, if you're a full-time streamer, will save you an hour per month, and your time is probably worth that much at least.
right? So actually, okay, so so that's the tangent on the bookkeeping piece, but you kind of hit on something that I wanted to get to at the end of the show, but I think this is a good segue for it. We
Perfect.
talked about the time you spend being a broadcaster and kind of the minimum hour commitment to like do a good job on these things, right? So if you're a full time, and I mean truly full time, where you are like paying your rent and all of that, right? There's not enough time in the day. So you've got to make these decisions in terms of what you are going to outsource. So kind of another thing that we've talked about, Galen, I think it makes a lot of sense because you as kind of the forward-looking financial planner really kind of help put this into context for people in terms of where their time is well spent. So do you want to talk about outsourcing? I know this is one of your like big things.
So I mean, as Ernest said, from what we've talked about, like doing all of the roles involved with being a streamer, being the talent, being the production assistant, being the personal assistant, being the marketer, overseeing legal, overseeing accounting and tax, handling business development, handling administration of just sort of everything else, including responding to your 30,000 unread emails. All of that takes so much time that there's no way once you're at the there's no way that when you're at the full-time level you can do all of it successfully and not burn yourself out. So what you should start to look at, since you have all of these jobs, and we've harped on this over and over and over again in very many of our shows, is look at what kinds of things you can outsource. It can be hiring an artist. It can be hiring someone to do brand and design work for you. It can be literally hiring a personal assistant. I have some clients who have people come in and do like grocery shopping and basic cleaning and go to their mailbox, their PO box rather, for them. All of those things that they know that they should do that weigh on them when they don't do it, but are low value in isolation, I guess I'd say, right? Like grocery shopping, important because you need to eat, but also if you were to compare two activities at any one point, grocery shopping is probably the lower one for most people. So people have hired personal assistants, people have hired bookkeepers, people hire Ernest to do their tax, they outsource legal stuff to lawyers, they outsource some of the business development work to agents or managers, right? Some of the logistics and administration work to managers. It's something that, since you have all of this work on your plate, so many jobs, or you'll hear it often put as hats, right? It's so important to find those things that you can comfortably outsource and do it. And there will be some things that you like doing that maybe it makes sense for you to hold on to, where someone else, one of your friends, might have it be the first thing that they kick out of their, out of their task list. That's fine, but figure out the things that you just should not be spending your time doing, and outsource it from all of these different jobs. We've outsourced production because Ernest and I are terrible at it, and it's amazing that we've outsourced production because it worked. We talked about this, I know, earlier, but because it actually goes well, and because it actually keeps us accountable, and because then I can be sitting here ranting like this and not having to worry about switching the scene around if something were wrong. Not that it is, for the record, Morag. That's just an example. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Morag's already setting up the next show.
And the thing is, too, is that there's the consideration in terms of time, but we've talked about kind of your core competency.
That's very nice of Morag to say 20 minutes to hotfix, because what he's telling us is 10 minutes until you guys need to shut up.
Rough.
See, I got him to laugh. I don't know, man.
Can that be our thing? Our thing is just trying to get him to laugh? Okay, good. Now I'm gonna.
I don't know if everyone else can hear him, but Ernest and I can.
Oh
wow! Apparently you can't. Dang.
So there's a person behind the curtain for us. But back to this core competency question, right? What are you good at? You may be a great editor or whatever, and you can just have the sense to when to edit things, to either make something funny or dramatic or what have you, and maybe you wouldn't outsource that. Maybe in another life, maybe you got your accounting degree. Maybe you are good at bookkeeper, right? But the key thing you're deciding is, how's my time best spent? What am I good at? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of part of your decision matrix when you're considering outsourcing.
and we have clients who are making a full-time living from YouTube where they just really enjoy video editing. It is a hobby and a passion of theirs, so they haven't outsourced their YouTube editing. At least they haven't outsourced the majority of it, because even though they're earning crazy money and could be spending that time elsewhere, but that's just something that they enjoy. It's something that is fulfilling for them, versus other clients who literally didn't start their YouTube channel until they had an editor because they knew they never wanted to do it. I pay someone to edit the videos that I put on YouTube because even though it's something that I could theoretically do, I hate doing it so much that it tanks the rest of my day, right?
You're in you've caught the Among Us wave, right? And so you're going to do like an imposter game and a crewmate game and maybe kind of a funny intro, right? But you're not an editor, right? But you're
right.
The game. Well, you can hire an editor, be like, okay, these are the games where like something interesting happened, cut it together, fast forward through the lull parts and go from there, right?
Yep. You see that all the time with Hearthstone, which is like one of some of the biggest time spent content wise that I enjoy consuming.
Mm-hmm. I don't think, sorry to cut you off, I don't think Disguised Toast is editing his Among Us videos.
No, exactly. And you can even see, Hearthstone's a game that inherently has a lot of downtime where if someone's playing the game at a high level, they're sitting and staring and thinking, right? Or even if it's Hearthstone Battlegrounds, there's a set time on how much per turn. And probably if it's a minute and a half, probably only 30 seconds of it are actually action. So it's, having someone who can edit that kind of stuff out, or whatever the equivalent is in other fields, like Ernest was saying, having someone who can help you just get the tax stuff done well, or can help you, make connections at companies that might potentially sponsor you because they already have those relationships. Those are all things that make a big difference. So one of I would say your pinnacle job as a broadcaster, once you're doing it approaching full time, isn't actually any of the jobs that we've listed before. Your pinnacle job is running the business, is being the CEO. And that means managing the talent, and that means managing the legal and the marketing and the admin and the accounting and tax. And that could just mean managing yourself for a lot of it. But that's the biggest piece, is like once you're running a big enough business, your job becomes the business, not as much what you were doing in the business. Now, specifically with streaming, YouTube, that kind of thing, it's a lot harder to remove yourself from the talent role, right? But what that means then is that you need to know that you will always be wearing at least two hats, at least talent, at least CEO, right? Even the person who I've seen outsource that CEO role the most, Day9, who has his business partner, and they've been working together for forever. Which Eric, if you ever get a chance to talk to him, is the most interesting person in streaming to talk to. Even though he's been doing that since the start, and the start for him is he literally has the longest sub streak on the platform. Even in that case, he still needs to be involved in all of that, right? Even though he is primarily the talent and he's outsourced a lot of that management work internal to the business, there's still pieces that he needs to be doing there, right?
And on that, so kind of got a couple of things we want to hit and then outros, because we've got that hard out now. We can't just wax poetic forever.
Morag's just going to start screaming, and we can hear him, but not the audience. So if you just see us suddenly flinch, you'll know we've hit time.
Specifically, I wanted to talk, I put this under the accounting note and tax note, but specifically evaluating cost benefit analysis. We've talked about like, okay, you've heard broadcasters talk about this. I'm going to be going to a con, right? And because
some theoretical future con in
2030. Nice, perfectly timed. I'm a jerk like that. But 2030, you go to a con, it's like, oh, I was out for like 3 days because of travel, and then the travel days, and this recovering because it's,
because you probably got sick because it's a con. And now that we see exactly what can happen when you're hugging everyone and spitting in each other's faces by talking loudly,
so you miss 5-6 days, and then people joke about subpocalypse and sub drops and those things, right? Well, how beneficial was that con? You get a lot of good networking opportunities for it. And that's not to say that, it all has to be explicitly stated like cost benefit. There's this intrinsic value. Either maybe you networked with someone and then it bore fruit way down the road. I mean, that's
which is certainly true for both of us, right?
Yeah. And so It is something to consider as well. This is something we wanted to hit on. So our last topic is kind of our catch-all, our administration. I saw Serena kind of talking about administration, but I'm going to tell a quick story and then let Galen talk about what he wants to on the administrative side. I was hanging out with someone, a broadcaster, and they said like, yeah, my email is just kind of like really bad. And like, it just got so bad that I just kind of like gave up on managing it. And it was the kind of upper right notification. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not big fishing this. There were 7,000 plus unread emails. And not making light of anxiety or anything like that, I had empathetic like anxiety for them because I'm the person that clears every single like notification.
Same. And I've definitely seen it in the 5-figure unread range, and it's horrifying.
You want to talk about it?
Oh, and that's not even, I mean, well, that's just that. And then you see Discord pulled up, and they've also got hundreds of unread Discord messages and all of this. But it's because of the role that you fulfill as a broadcaster, right? You are a semi-public figure or a public figure. So you're getting a lot of things that others wouldn't, including messages from people who either want to do business with you or are just interested in interacting with you in some form. That administrative piece is wildly important. And frankly, if you're someone who's lost control of it for a whole host of reasons, having someone who can help you regain control of it might actually pay for itself in terms of just like missed opportunities that you would have gladly done but just didn't see because it was so overwhelming to look at how many unread emails that you had. It made you feel anxiety. It just felt like it would take too long. It was just a low priority, whatever it is, right? But like, that's something that I've actually seen pay off is hiring someone to look through that kind of stuff, just because of how much there can be in there.
One thing I see constantly, and I think this revolves around kind of the mid-tier creators who aren't necessarily with an agency yet or don't have someone to help broker them, is make sure you have a contact outside of Twitter DMs, whether it's an email or some easy way to find how for, a game dev to contact you, right? Like a marketing team, like they may have eyed your content, ID'd you, wanted to follow up, and they get to your Twitter or whatever, and there's no email, right? So make sure that there's a way for people to contact you. But on that same vein, if there's a way for them to contact you, you have to respond to it. There's this old saying that like 90% of success is just showing up or something akin to that. I think I'm butchering the turn of phrase, but effectively from what I've seen, and if you want to, I truly believe Twitter is not real life, but if you take, I think there's a kernel of truth, just like in every joke, there's a kernel of truth there, is that if you were a creator and you responded within a day of a developer reaching out or a marketing team or something, even if it was just hey, I looked this over, I want some more, details on the thing, or hey, I just don't think this is a right fit for my brand. I think, and this is completely personal opinion, that would go a very long way. And maybe they'll just keep you on a short list theoretically, right? Like, okay, like, this wasn't a good fit for them, but they responded and they were very thoughtful in their response. And so I'm going to keep them on my kind of A-tier list of creators when we do our next one. And specifically on kind of following up with people, I know we've talked about it, I know Stream Scene has talked about it, is that people change gigs all the time. And so someone may be at developer AAA title, but maybe they go to like an indie studio and they remember an activation you did and you guys interacted and it was a positive interaction. So they're going to, take that good feeling and move you to kind of that short list again.
If you're easy to work with and people see that, they remember you as easy to work with. So when they're looking for something that is someone that could be like a good fit for some activation that needs a quick turnaround time, they're looking for the people who are easy to work with. Like it's that simple a lot of the time. And we're harping on something in relation to the topics that we've talked about. But yeah, so we've talked about a lot of jobs, right? That streamers have to do. I'm looking at time and wanting to not have Morag mad at us, but well,
no, we have to hit it smooth. Right, so we're at 150. Let's do our quick wrap up on it. Basically, today, we talked a lot about the various roles and responsibilities you have specifically as a full-time creator. And I would say, as part of that, this is kind of the transition point from when you are able to outsource. So we talked about all the things that kind of, as you're transitioning to full-time, that you have to do, whether it's your marketing strategy or networking, or making sure the bed gets made, making sure your stream works well, the legal accounting side of it. I think the big takeaway for people who are looking to get into this as kind of a full-time gig is that to know there's a lot more, significantly a lot more that goes into it than what you see when the thing is live.
At least to do it successfully.
Yes. And that's the goal, right? If you want to go full-time, is you want to be successful with it.
I mean, it's just like saying NBA players just show up and play the game. Like, no.
Practice? We talking about practice? That's
Allen Iverson. God, no, speaking of older references.
That's very reference. So anything else you want to kind of add on as a summation, Galen?
No, I think we've covered it really well. The summary is there are a ton of jobs that if you want to do this successfully as your main thing, or at least as a part of the things that you do, you have to do a decent job at all of those jobs. And the way that you can do that as things get crazier, busier, is to outsource some of it. We've harped on this over and over and over again, but make sure that you're giving the time and respect that it takes to all of these different hats that you have to wear, and figuring out which ones you can start to hand off to other people eventually. And
one thing I would say, a good function would be write down all the things you have to do, and then group them by
not to give yourself a panic attack, but to give yourself control.
So you know what you actually have to do, and then that way it can kind of at least get you started out of the train station on the rails of success.
Nicely done.
Listen, I'm good at these transitions and soliloquies. So, Galen, at the end of the return of your brand, your business, why don't you talk about yourself and who you are, yada yada.
I am old. I tweaked my back a couple weeks ago and it's still hurting. So if you see me shifting awkwardly and stuff like that, or have seen me doing it, that's why. But beyond that, Galen Herbst Cortina, financial planner who works with streamers. My job is to help people make smart money decisions, and basically, so from what we talked about here, not have to worry about figuring out whether the things that they're doing or are presented with, or any changes that come up with their life, are ones that are relevant to them. My job is to help them make those decisions quickly and without having to do all that research.
You cut out the my favorite line from your spiel, which is, and help people make less dumb money decisions.
Yeah.
Is that a marketing decision?
No, it's not. It's one that I if I'm planning it ahead of time, remembering, include, but also try not to. Yeah, you try not to be too negative too often.
That's fair. No, I just was saying because we talked about the marketing hat. So I am Ernest Jones. I'm a CPA. I assist new media professionals, game developers, models, streamers, broadcasters, YouTubers, you name it, with their tax problems. And so now I get to use the radio voice. It is 1:53 p.m. at the top of the hour, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We've got another show on StreamerSquare. It is Hot Fix. They're going to be talking about the article that came out about Twitch culture. Galen and I read it. It is not flattering. That is a tease. Hosted by Lucid Fox. Monkeyism now is joined, and the guests are Casey Tron, TK Breezy, and Vio. So you guys stick around, enjoy that show, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel, your brand, your business.
Assuming I can sit upright.
Well, we can sub Noah.
There we go. Perfect.
Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.